when it first came out, you had like you had the Damned, you had the Sex Pistols, Patti Smith, Television.
God, Debbie Harry back then.
Yeah, and Blondie and the Nuns, and so you had all this stuff that was punk was like wasn't such a cliquish word. It wasn't such a strict label. People were calling Devo punk, you know.
God, I love Devo. I want to.
Devo,
I want to see them. I want to see them. A couple of those bands from back then. And like last year, we went. My girlfriend and I. This is not really punk, but we went over to. It's I guess post-punk in a way. We went to Denver and saw the Pixies. It was really incredible.
Yeah, great band.
Them and hope to see Pavement this year at some point.
But so I think that's kind of. We got into that whole thing, and that's what I think really started to influence us in that, that we wanted to play fast and what our lyrics would be like and the rebellious nature. But then, as the hardcore punk began to change, and it wasn't we weren't like so influenced by the LA punk rock, the Adolescents, Black Flag, etc. That's coming out, and started to get into like some of this other like. Midwestern punk rock, like the Zero Boys.
Who would that be? Who's that again?
Kreutzen. Huh? I beg your pardon?
De Kreutzen. Just who are some of the Midwest?
Yeah, the Zero Boys, De Kreutzen, maybe like Husker Du.
Husker Du, yeah, that's a favorite of mine too.
Yeah.
I can still listen to that.
And then, the East Coast stuff, like, we really got into like, Minor Threat and Government Issue. And things like that, and those things start to take on like sort of a more positive-ish message and a more personal message. Maybe not so much of like fuck the government and fuck Reagan and just sort of like rhetoric.
Stupid screensaver.
And so I think we sort of kind of got into that, and I think that's really where Victims Willing sort of lied. Lyrically and
sounds like a
more personal
mixture of some of those.
Yeah, and then it ultimately got a little metallic when like kind of crossover stuff came out and like all the bands started adding second guitarists and it got pretty metally, but yet I think so it got heavy and it got some leads and stuff in it, but the message always stayed pretty personal. I wrote all the lyrics, and so it's more about like my life or how I felt or emotions or just kind of like I have this shitty life and this is how I emote it and get it out and purge myself of it is by writing all these lyrics and then getting up in front of people and screaming and yelling and playing this aggressive rock music. And
that's really punk, something that they brought where you really could
right.
I guess James Taylor or some of that shit that was actual like that You're So Vain was supposedly about him. It's like they're light rock California coke snorting assholes. Okay, I get it.
So
but punk really brought you talk about personal things.
Yeah, I think so. You could talk about personal things, and you're playing to a crowd of people who could totally relate. I think you were basically singing their story in singing your own story. This is how I feel, this is what I think is fucked up, this is how, what should be changed, and you have all these kids who, really have nowhere to go or anything to do, and they can sort of relate to that, and then on top of it you have this just powerful raw music of just, power chords and fast drumming and
there was like the element of a certain amount of like kids living on the street, hanging out in front of the God, what was not the ZCMI, but the other,
Yeah,
the
Crossroads
Crossroads Mall when that was there.
Yeah, sure. You know,
Now they seem to hang out on Main Street in front of City Weekly. Sort of.
Yeah, I don't really see much of that anymore, but
you go ride the tracks down to like 3rd South and Main, that like in front of Sam Weller's in the City Weekly, and
still doing it, huh? 30 years later.
anyway, they talked about, and that was a kind of joke about the mall